The following is a production of Texas Lutheran University. For more information, please visit tlu.edu.
Thanks so much for coming. My name is Amelia Coford. I work in the TLU library. Our moderator, Dr. Norm Beck, will tell you more about kind of how the panel will work, and I just have a few thank yous to do first. First, thank you so much to everyone for attending. I know this is a very busy week, and it really means a lot to have so many people here and have the interest in interfaith and cross-cultural dialogue at TLU. Thanks to the professors who encouraged your students to attend, and if any students need to swipe your cards, Anne is in the back. You can see her and get your card swiped if you're getting credit for being here. Next, I want to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities and the American Library Association provided a grant to the library this year. It's a year-long project called Bridging Culture as Muslim Journeys. We got 25 books and 3 films and access to a database, and 1,000 libraries across the country got those, public libraries and academic libraries. These resources chosen by scholars to help the American public learn more about Islam. And so this panel, that's what inspired us to put on this panel. The panel's title is Islam Beyond Stereotypes. And yeah, finally, and there's some information in the back about that program and information that our guests have brought. And finally, just thank you to the panelists and the moderator who are giving their time to launch these important discussions. And now I'll hand it over to Dr. Beck.
Thank you very much, Amelia. Stereotypes. Stereotype really is a word that comes from the printing industry, making something that can be pressed on something else to make lots of copies. Not always accurate, and the term has come a long time ago over into the world of thought beyond the printing industry. Usually the word, of course, means something which is hardened, not necessarily hard, but hardened, stereo. And the application here would be when we don't know much about something or some people, we learn a little bit, we have limited knowledge, and then we use that and share it to a lot of people, and it may not be all that accurate. And that's why we call it a stereotype. And the goal is to learn more, to go beyond stereotypes, to learn more about people and ideas that are different, to be educated, to be changed, to learn, to go beyond stereotypes. Muslim people are often stereotyped in non-Muslim cultures. And I suppose it works both ways, and it would. Particularly after 9/11, there were some very negative stereotypes, which were unfortunate, applying to a whole group of people, some limited experience with just a very, very few. And so there have been many programs and opportunities since 9/11 especially to go beyond stereotypes. And this evening we have one of those with 2 excellent people to help us to go beyond the stereotypes that many non-Muslim people have about Muslim people. And so I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, because they can do a much better job than I can, and make a brief presentation, and then we will have a lot of time for questions and discussion. We want to stop by 8:30 and be on schedule. So let us welcome our first guest presenter, and she will explain more, Sarwat Husain, about her work and her experiences.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. It's so nice to see so many students, young people sitting in front of us and trying to understand what's going on. As Hijazi said, my name is Sarwat Husain, and I'm from San Antonio. Originally, I'm from Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan. I am the president of the Council on American Islamic Relations, San Antonio chapter, and the vice chair of the National Board, which is we are headquartered in DC, and we have 33 chapters. What do? We are in the business of fighting stereotypes. We work to defend and advocate civil rights, facilitate the understanding of Islam and Muslims, and build coalitions and bridges to create mutual understandings between the communities. That is the core of our work. That includes everything. We are involved in fighting the civil rights. We are involved with the media. We are involved in policy making, although we are not really making much difference there, but we are visible. We work with the law enforcement, giving them again the workshops in understanding Islam and Muslims, and especially American Muslims, especially the kids that are born here. They do not know any other country than this. They're just like you all. So that is the core of our work. We write op-eds, we write columns in the newspaper, we go different places, speak, and that just takes over our lives. But it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, it's also a lot of fun. Now coming to today's topic, I can get started with what is stereotypes. It is just the generalization about any group whereby a set of characteristics are attributed to the people of that group. Stereotypes could be negative and positive both. Today we are talking about the negatives because that is all the Muslims get, the negative stereotypes. This is a very disturbing trend for the Muslims in the United States, whether they are born American Muslims, because today Islam is the fastest growing religion in the West. We like it or not, that is the way it is, for whatever reason it is. Now, which means that many Western people have converted to Islam as well. If we are 8 million of us in the United States right now, at least 2 million of those are the converts. They don't like themselves to be called converts, they want to be called reverts. Because in Islam, every child that is born a Muslim. What is a Muslim? One has to understand what is a Muslim. A Muslim that believes in one God and one Creator and all the prophets that he has sent so far. The last prophet was Prophet Muhammad, but that does not mean we only believe in Prophet Muhammad. All the rest of the prophets were also the messengers of God, including Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, and Prophet Muhammad. So that is the core of Islam. Do everything right. Islam is big on social justice. Do what is right, stay away from wrong. Is that so bad? When any child that is born, that is the way he or she is born, not knowing the bad stuff. They're born pure. And this is why, according to Islam, every child that is born is a Muslim. So when people are converting to Islam, they call themselves reverts instead of calling converts. We can argue about it, but that is the way it is in Islam. So it is a disturbing trend for the American Muslims to see this stereotypical threats, because there is a lot of hate crime that is taking place around the United States with the Muslims. We hear a lot of stories about churches being attacked or Christians being attacked in the Muslim majority countries. I'm sure that is happening. Recently you must have heard in Pakistan a church was attacked. What you did not hear was how people fought for it, how people came out on the streets to protect the Christian community. We have to understand all those things as well. But in the United States, more than 400 mosques have been bombed, vandalized, shot at throughout the country here. Have we heard about those? Wrong is wrong, whether it happens here or it happens there. But in the United States, when it is happening, it is that idea that has been created against Islam and Muslims. When you turn the news on, you see here, you watch any Muslim name, Muslim criminal whether he has killed somebody or is going to bomb some place or what have you, along with his name, always they will say he or she is a Muslim. Well, so far there has not been any she's. It's all he's, which is nice. But at least, the women are not in there yet. But however, you will see that, oh, a Muslim did it. A Muslim did it because Islam is teaching that. That is what Quran says it. It is not Quran, it is Quran with a Q. And Muslims are doing it. It's not Muslim, it is Muslims. Or the Islamist. There is no such thing as Islamist in Islam. If Islamist is a word, then Christianist would be a word too. Or Jewishist will be a word too, I mean, imagine, it is not. These are all created terminology. And we have to understand where it is coming from. So therefore, if you see the hate crime about these stereotypical things that are said in the media, then you wonder what is going on. We all are Americans. We all are conscientious people. The bad thing about us is we are very, very lazy people. Because we are so busy in our lives that we only buy into the sound bites that we get from the television or the radios, that what is going on. When we see something is being said bad about Islam and Muslims, we believe it. Instead of questioning, really? Will there be any faith that would teach something like that? To go and kill infidels? To terrorize people? To do all the bad stuff? Would there be any such faith? And then they say they believe in God? We have to go and research ourselves. Because God has given a head on our shoulders for a reason. It's not to be wasted. It has to be used. Go and research. Today it is so easy with the technology we have, with the press of a button. You can find the right and wrong and in between. That is where you use your head. Instead, we believe in what is being told to us. Some of the policymakers, sadly, are doing that. Some of the media, Fox News, I have to take that name here, and some of the other media too, but most of them are not as bad as Fox is. In the West, Islam is always associated with terrorism, female oppression, bombings and killings, honor killings, and all the bad stuff in the West. Again, we never question if that really what is Islam is saying. The media cliches are so strong that whenever you hear anything, you just believe in it very strongly. I have had people who argue with me saying, oh, I heard it on the Fox, or I heard it on the CNN. Well, did you go and find out if it was true or not? No, they just believe just because it was said. You must be hearing these days about the Sharia law. How many of you have heard about the Sharia law? Just a few? Okay, not that bad, huh? Otherwise, Sharia law is making headlines everywhere. First of all, there is no such thing as a Sharia law. Islam itself is following the will of God. We call God Allah. In English, the name for Allah is God. In all the Arab world, all the Christians also call God Allah. All the Jews call him Allah. So if it is the same creator that has created all of us. We believe in Adam, we all believe in Abraham. Peace be upon all of them. Islam believes that Adam was a prophet as well. There has been, according to Quran, 124,000 prophets that came to the world. All those 124,000 names are not written in Quran. Only just a handful are in there. But who would be those? Obviously, people that brought the right message about God. So the media is very strong in it. Everything we hear in the media, whether it is about the wars, about anybody else, or about Islam, we just believe in it. My message to you would be, please go find out yourself if that is really true or not. Again, on the internet, everything is out there. I'm supposed to tell you the stereotypes that I have encountered. How much time do I have?
Oh, say another 5 minutes or so,
Oh,
so we
well,
have time for
I better be
questions.
quick. All right. And I have encountered, well, quite a few. Every step of my life, I encounter some stereotype. But the biggest one would be, I don't know, should I talk about that shooting business?
Sure.
All right. I thought they must have read it. Anyway, this was right after 9/11. And before 9/11, you know, when I came from Pakistan, I was only 17 years old. And my husband was very liberal. He did not mind whether I cover my hair or not. He did not mind as long as I'm modestly dressed up. So I took off my hijab. This is hijab. I took it off and I was fine. I was asking for more attention when I was wearing it. It was Wisconsin, Eau Claire, a small university town, and people were looking at me. Why is she always covered? People sometimes thought that I don't have hair, or I have not washed my hair, I'm having a bad hair day. I'm told all those things. And so I took it off. Here comes 9/11 after all these years. You know, when my friends, they were attacked because the only way people could tell that they were Muslims was because they were covered. And they were attacked physically. When these ladies called me, because I have always been an activist, always fighting for the causes, and they called me, they said, you have to do something about this. So I didn't believe them, and they said, well, why don't you put it on one day and just go out? I did that. I put it on one day and went to the North Star Mall in San Antonio, if you all know where that is. Up till now, whenever I went to the mall, anybody who's going before me, opening the door, will keep the door open for me. That day, they will look at me from top to bottom and shut it on my face. Okay, that was my very first experience. Then the looks in the mall. The more looks I was getting, the longer I stayed. Because I wanted to show them, you know, so what? Keep looking at me. They have to get used to it. I'm an American. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay. So that was my first experience. Then right afterwards, the Patriot Act came. I was working. I had formed a coalition of different organizations, and we were working to knock down some of the Patriot Act things in there. One day after that meeting from downtown, it was 10:30 at night or so, I was coming out to come back home, and I saw a car started following me. Well, whenever there was a stoplight, they will come next to me and scream and call me names, and God knows what they were saying. I was just shaking. I was so scared I would not open my window. I went home. Finally, I reached home, and they were not there, so I came down. As I started walking towards they came from behind another car that was parked on the street and started shooting at me. I thought it was a real gun because it sounded like a real gun, and you know, with all the fear, but afterwards the police told me it was what is it called? Paintball gun. The police came, and so far nobody got caught, but it made holes in my car. My whole house was covered with paint. My lawn was covered with paint. My car had holes. There was thousands of dollars of damage. And there are many, you know, stories like these. I was at McDonald's once, and I was buying some sandwich or something. And as I went to get my drink, a man was sitting over there. He goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you a Muslim?" I said, "You mean Muslim?" "Yes, I am." And he goes, "Well, I have a question for you. Why are you covering your hair?" And I said, "Because it's my right." I said, I want to cover my hair. What's wrong with it?" And he goes, "No, but it's your Quran that tells you." I said, "You mean Quran?" And yeah, Quran tells me too, but it does not force me to do it. If I don't want to, I don't have to. All Muslim ladies do not cover their hair. And so as he was talking, another younger man comes towards us and stood there. And after a while, he goes, "What is it to you?" To that man, you know. And now they both started fighting, and it was getting physical. And I thought, "Oh my God, please stop it." I don't like what you are doing, and I certainly don't like what you are doing also. So he said, this is wrong. We are Americans, and what is he doing to our name, you know? And this young man got excited. So what I'm trying to say here is America has both faces. You know, there are people who are ready to protect us. We are who are in majority. And there are people like these who are in minority, but they are the ones who make the news. They are the ones who are so effective. Because the good ones don't speak up. You know, like we say, this is wrong, they shouldn't do it, and we go by our way. We don't come out on the streets and fight for these things. We don't have time because we are doing so much good work. That's it.
Thank you very much for your initial.
My name is Dr. Sam Hijazi. I'm a professor here at TLU. Some of you already have taken classes with me. This is an example, just to break a stereotype, that women rules, you know. So.
Thank you.
I was born a Muslim. I was born in Syria. I'm an American by choice. I became an American in 1997, and I have two beautiful kids, probably the best-looking kids in the world, let's put it that way. My son, his name is Isam, and he's 14, and my daughter is 13. Her name is Rhoda. And my wife, again, by far the best-looking woman in Texas, and she is doing a postdoctoral research
MashaAllah.
in the Diabetes Center here in San Antonio. And we have another person in our household. He is, his name is Grandpa. He's a Christian grandpa. We adopted him. He was a wonderful, big-hearted person, and he raised the kids since they were born. So he's living with us in the same household. So I don't want to tell you too much about my experience. I was a lot luckier than my sister here in many ways. Stereotypes in my life always been around. I could tell you numerous examples after September 11 that I've been exposed to. I could tell you a lot about some conversation that took place in the side to really show the other side. Usually people in America, especially in the United States, are very polite people if you compare them to other cultures. That's very true. They don't show you exactly the truth, but if you get into a debated discussion and true, honest dialogue, you might see another way of belief or another way of opinion, rather, than what they show usually. So I had some of those moments that were negative, and I had some positive. In September 11, actually I was sleeping late that day, and when I got the news, I could not believe it, because somebody told me it's like it could not even get through my mind. Eventually the reality hit home, and I started believing that this is something very, very tragic that took place. And I was ready, because of course I cried. I did feel a little bit scared. I feared for my wife and for my kids. But most of my American friends came home, and they gathered in my yard, and they prayed with me together. They prayed for my safety, they prayed for my kids' safety, for my people's safety. And I had, of course, a very positive experience as a very tragic moment. I'm going to tell you that I was not really stereotyped when I came to Texas in the last 5 years, but there are incidents that happens where it's really related to ignorance more than really a stereotype. When my kids attended school here, I don't want to name really even the gender of the individual. That individual is really nice, try to do their business as much as they can, but like asking for pizza for my children. And this individual insisted that my kids should have pizza with pepperoni. I promised my mother I will never touch pork since I came to the United States. This is part of our belief systems. And I was having a dialogue with the lady who's responsible for the food, and she please take out the pepperoni. I'm not asking for more, I'm asking for less, you know, for my kids. And as a result, she just didn't go well with her. So what I did, actually, I was smarter in handling the situation. I said their grandfather, after her, he's 300 pounds. He was raised in the Appalachian Mountain, so he knows a lot better than me, and my skills in fighting is a lot greater than I would ever possess. So he took care of the issues. But the lack of understanding in something like just to be courteous to somebody by providing my children with pizza without the pepperoni as a respect to my belief system was not really getting through. So I called a friend of mine, he's a Jew guy in New Jersey. I said, how would you handle something like this? And because the Jews don't eat also pork. And he said, just say the word kosher. And when I did that, everything went really smooth. So there is a lot of things like this happens. I don't think the individual has the wrong intention, but does not have the empathy or the sympathy toward other people or other culture that we have handled few of those incidents in Texas since I came here. I'm not going to tell you Key West is a prejudiced place because it's one of the most open places. I lived there for 18 years. You have varieties of people, different backgrounds. It's a very colorful place, very humanistic place, let's put it this way. I had a great time there, so I didn't experience any negativity there. If I ever experienced anything negative in Key West, it was a matter of opinion, not as a matter of stereotype or prejudice. Again, I was lucky, and I would like to tell you that regarding the stereotypes, I classified three things as a person who was born in Syria. Some of the stereotypes that I hear about us in the United States are true, and some of them are exaggerated, and some of them are outrageous. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the one that I think they are true. There is a level of women oppression in our countries, in the Middle East or the Muslim countries, not specifically maybe in the other sides of the Muslim world. I would like to know, also clarify that Arabs are, most of them are Muslim, but a lot of Arabs are Christian too. And a lot of the majority of the Muslims are not Arab. Okay, like my sister here is not an Arab, she's Pakistani. I am an Arab because I was born in Syria. And we do have a male-dominant society to certain extents in the Middle East more than anything else. I don't see that in Morocco as the West, and in Indonesia all the way to the East. So this is kind of stereotype because I work with women's rights. I'm a women's rights advocate for 24 years, and I had to struggle for years toward that issues. So this is actually true. And we're struggling, and a lot of women are changing the stereotype by doing something positive about it. I work with women in Syria, I work with women in Egypt, I work with women all over the Muslim countries. They know their rights, and they know the rights of their brother too, meaning the rights of us, male. We have rights too, because sometimes they neglect that too, and they become a little bit too strong for the cause. The exaggerated, it's really silly. It's really difficult for my students to tell them that Syria is really, it snows there, it has a lot of mountains, it has a lot of forest. It takes me really long time to convince them that there is no, I've never seen a camel in my life. I don't have a dome of sands when I leave my apartment. It's all hills. So that's kind of perception that comes from Hollywood is a lot exaggerated than what we see and what we have lived with. So if you take a look at Lebanon, for example, it's like 14,000 feet high, the mountain there. You're not going to really roam camels in that kind of climate. There is sand, but that's part of the Middle East. There is Sahara, that's part of North Africa. We have a very, very huge land, and we have a diverse climate, diverse habits, diverse eating, diverse foods. You cannot really compare the Turkish food or the Syrian food to the Saudi food. My sister's food I love very much. It's the hottest, probably, spices I have had. We don't have spices at all in our food. It's all lemon juice and olive oils and a lot of olives in everything we cook. The outrageous stereotype, I befriended many American family. I have one of them right here. He's our neighbor, Mr. Jerry and Miss Rita. Actually, they spend the Ramadan, which our holy month, we fast from sunrise to sunset. and they broke their fast with us every day, except for 2 days, right? Good. We do have those, but it's just interesting that sometimes, like I have a lady in Baltimore, and she knows that I lived in a place. I showed her my father's palace. My father is a rich guy, and after like 10 years of our friend, she would come and ask me a question like, do you have toilets in your series? This is the kind of question that goes around and comes back and they haunt you. I did show you pictures, I did show you the buildings, I did show you the whatever I need to show you to prove to you that there is maybe a toilet in our house somehow, but it comes around. It's like something that's been heard and heard over and over. I'm making a funny example. It is funny because those the kind of thing that becomes so exaggerated. If you see some movie from Hollywood about who we are as a Muslim, it just scares me to think I am one of those people. It really makes me numb and sometimes scratch my skin to see if this is a reality that they want my American friends to see about me. It's very frightening. So the exaggeration is, or the outrageousness is right there. Do I have enough for, that's enough for me?
Sure. Another 5 minutes if you
Sure.
like.
Most of the stereotype that we hear about is really based on ignorance, distorted facts, and mostly misconceptions, okay? I don't think the West overall, I lived in 3 continents. I lived in Europe before I came to the United States. Before that, I lived in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, believe it or not. And before that, I was born in Syria, which I lived only 7 years of my life in Syria. So people think back home I'm Syrian, but to some extent, only a childhood memory, which I love dearly, that country. Sadly, we have a lot of problem now. Before September 11, every image I had to, it was like some sort from the Ottoman Empire. You know, it's like there's a turban somewhere in my closet. There's something like, I don't know where the image comes to their mind about who is, even though Damascus is the oldest inhabited cities in the world, and we have women participating in every aspect of the society. You know, the stereotype was completely different from what I grew up to see in my old country. So, as you notice, not only the stereotype is based on ignorance, it did actually brought, after September 11, a massive shift in people. Generalization was the very first thing that I had to deal with when we discussed. Like, they lumped the whole Muslim people as 1.5 billion people. Muslims are 23% of the population in this planet. If I'm going to put this many group of people in one picture or one image, I mean, I'm going to question my sanity as the person who's doing the judgment to start with. I mean, we're talking about from China all the way to Morocco. That's a very, very large piece of land. Not to mention that we have between 8 to 12 million people in the United States alone. And not to mention how many millions in Canada, not to mention also how many of us immigrated to South America. Actually, there's over a couple millions in Argentina, in Brazil. There's a lot of Syrian and Lebanese in Brazil. That's one thing about how the West sees us in a negative way, but also there is a negative side from us as Muslim toward the West. The Muslim, not all of them, of course, just like not all the American, think the entire West is sleazy. They think they're cheap. They think they're greedy. They think they could do anything to make some money from you. I've heard that over and over about the perception. Actually, when I came to the United States, one of my friends said, if you find $100 bills on the floor when you leave the airport, don't start working from the first day because money everywhere. So this is kind of like an image that we grew up to believe about. And I wanted to assure also my friends in Syria that an American mother or American friend as loyal and sometimes more loyal in some cases, depending on the individual, than us toward each other. So if you look at an American mother, we never believed that an American mother could do the same thing like a Syrian mother would do, or an Arabian mother would do toward her children, or a Muslim, because we always believe something missing there. That's the part of the stereotype that also we as a Muslim try to also have about the West, especially America. The Muslim also need to experience some of the generosity of America. Some of them are greedy for sure, but the majority of them are very generous people, and we're gonna deny this fact. The thing that I wanted to really mention, that we need to have a dialogue. We need to really have an open, not only open doors, we need to have open hearts, okay? I benefited greatly myself by adopting an American grandfather for my children. It helped my kids to grow in this environment as American citizens, productive kids. My kids get more gifts than any other kids in the neighborhood. Simply because we have two big holidays they call Eid. One of them is coming. The big Eid is the big pilgrimage, and the little Eid after Ramadan. And we also celebrate Christmas and Easter with Grandpa, who's really, so they get like really 4 big celebration a year. So if you could count the gifts that they collect, obviously their friends in their school a lot more jealous than anything you can imagine. My kids know no colors. We raise them that way, okay, because we confuse a lot of people by when we go shopping. Their grandfather is blue-eyed, of course, very, very light-skinned, and they think when my wife is not with us, they think he's her father. When they don't see me with them, they think he's my father, but when they see all of us together, they get very confused. They don't believe in race, even though something we have to identify, because I'm raising them to be humanistic. I want them to see the human before anything else. They are more aware and more caring as a result. Last Ramadan, again, I would like to mention Mr. Jerry, who took his time to be with us tonight. We had wonderful, wonderful time. It's not only about the food. I mean, my wife is an excellent cook. Do you agree I'm a good cook too?
Excellent.
Excellent cook. And not about the dessert that his wife made, or he made some of it, which was also beyond excellence. It's about the conversation. I learned more about America in the 50s and the 60s than I could never imagine. I'm going to even share some of the things that I learned from Mr. Jerry about what I need to learn about becoming a better human being as a result. I know Mr. Jerry is Lutheran, so you're in the right place here, but it doesn't matter whether he's Lutheran. We never discussed that because my kid's grandfather, he happens to be Southern Baptist. So we're talking about varieties of faiths in the same living group. It is about what we make our lives, of our life. I think we need to make it more meaningful, not by hiding from each other, but rather from sharing our knowledge. And more than anything, we need to share the wisdom that we accumulated together as a human race. Thank you.
Okay, we have 20 minutes. Enough time for perhaps 4 or 5 questions? All right, Dr. Yandel.
One discrepancy. She says Muslim, you say Muslim.
She probably the correct one.
Let me tell you that Muslims here, for instance, with our names also, sometimes to be polite, they would pronounce the way the rest of you pronounce it. Like, my name is Sarwat. Okay, there's an R in there. People would call me Sawat. It sounds like so what? So let me stand up. Yeah, that is, so I correct them. After all these years, still if anybody calls Sawat, I said, please roll that R in there, you know. My son is Nazir, Nazir. They call him Nazir. So sometimes people would, like my brother is Sabir, Sabir. So they call him Sabir. If anybody asks him, what is your name? He would say Sabir. I correct him. I said, say Sabir. How would everybody learn? Not that, I just want people to learn. The same way, if I am pronouncing any name wrong, I get corrected. So to be polite, many a times, we all do this. It is me who has this inner, go correct them. I hope I'm not offending anybody doing that. But one thing that he said I really appreciated, that the women are treated sometimes bad in the Muslim majority world. That has nothing to do with the religion.
Exactly.
Okay? Islam has given more rights to women than any other culture, any other faith. And actually, if you look at Islam, it is in continuation with Christianity, Judaism, and Christianity. So it brought the same the message. And women has to have their rights. And this is why I say, if I want to wear this, it is my right. Why should you stop? If anybody asks me, I say, if any woman is running half naked, nobody says she's wrong. But if she's fully covered, it becomes wrong. Where are we? If we are talking about the rights of the women, both the rights should be respected. So that was the answer.
Actually, I want to add something to Sister Sarwat here by saying, I'm really right, actually, there is women oppression, and that is not by religious teaching, rather by tradition.
And if you look at the women oppression, historically, women all over the world are treated bad by men. It is a men's world. Even here, women do not have the same rights as we say we should. So we must understand, if you see a woman being beaten by a Muslim, it is wrong. But don't women get beaten here also? All the times. Domestic violence is so common all over the world. So that has nothing to do with Islam at all. There's Islam, there is religion, and there's culture. Some cultural aspects are being blamed. Oh, this is Islam. This is what Islam is teaching. And that is not true.
Yes. Next question?
Come on, everybody, please. This is your time. Nothing is off limits.
Okay.
Yes. Dr. Strang.
In the media, and now of course we're questioning right away, we read about conflicts between Shia and Sunni. And I have been in Iran, and I know they're mainly Shia, and they don't like Iraq, who are the other group. To what extent do those two forces appear in any of the American communities as antagonistic, or do they?
Okay. Even back home, there really is no conflict between Shia and Sunni. Whatever we see is political. Okay. I was brought up among Shias, among Christians. My last name is Hussain, but I'm a Sunni. I was brought up with the Shias over there. We still have Shia friends even here. And my friend that came with me, she's a Shia right there. So we don't have any conflict. This is all political. And it is drawn out of proportion when it is shown on the television here. Ma'am, you were talking about Iraq. Iraq, majority of Iraq is Shia. It was just the ruler was Sunni. Minority was Sunni. And even now it is the Shia government. There are still Shia-Sunni fights that we hear about. But I have asked some of my friends that go to Iraq and come back. They say it is not as bad as it is shown here. The conflict between Shias and Sunnis. Does that answer your question?
Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's political issue. It's not religious, because I grew up as a Sunni too. I mean, I don't really care one way or the other, because the fact that there is little difference. If you take any two sects of the Christian religion, like if you take Lutheran or Methodist, or you would find more differences between these two groups than there is Shias and Sunni. And ironically, some political aspect of it took over, the whole situation. It made it very ugly. I mean, we cannot deny this. There are some incidents that people are being innocent people, and that's the saddest story, that they're paying the price for some clergy or really turn religion into politics. Just like sister here said something about the women's rights. The women's rights, it's a very dear subject to my heart. You know, if you take a look from one area to another area completely changed, because the tradition and how they embedded historically in that area makes a huge difference in how the male should treat the women in that piece of land or in that subculture. And that's what happens, sadly, especially in the last few years with the Syrian revolution, and how some of the clergy from both sides has utilized religion to their advantage.
Next question? Yes.
Just for understanding's sake, what to you is the most valuable part of your faith? You're thinking directly about that.
What do we feel the most valuable
Yeah.
part of the faith? Social justice. Social justice. Because if you believe in God, God has created the universe, the whole universe. It is not just me, him, or just chosen people. Everything, whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, green, does not matter. God has created all of us. There has to be justice for all of us. So that is what my religion teaches, and I think that is very dear to me.
To me, my religion means knowledge. I am very much involved in knowledge management, and any sort has to do with knowledge, because the very first word that was revealed to Muhammad was read. And there is tremendous respect to knowledge in our faith, that it's still to this day, somehow it's very neglected in many ways at this stage. Again, for political reason, because I forgot to mention that we had 0 democratic nation in the Middle East. So that does actually give you a great indication to how the whole picture of Islam has been distorted as a result of these rulers who really managed very well not to allow even true Islam to flourish. You know, there is no picture that you see in the Middle East that represent any reality about who we are as a Muslim. Because of all, I mean, if you look at the Quran, the very first word is read. It means so much to me that I could infinitely seek knowledge. And that's what I always say. Love, peace, and knowledge are infinites. And that's rooted in my religion. Because if also our prophets, when he revealed, he didn't know how to read and write. And that wasn't ordered by God to start reading at 40 years old. You know, some tradition in our culture, when it's dominated by some ignorance, male ignorance, that say you cannot really learn after a certain age. Is that really the same thing as the religious teaching? It's completely opposite to it. If you look at the tradition and how much it allowed to distort the picture of Islam in our life, you will find sometimes like 180 degrees from what Islam is telling you to do and what are the practices of these people. And that personally dismayed me. That's why I'm choosing to be a lot more spiritual at my state, at my age, than being religious.
Next question? Yes.
What do you feel that we as non-Muslims can do to kind of combat these stereotypes?
Learn. Get to know your Muslim neighbors. Get to know what is happening to them, because they are just equal to you. And keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on what is happening. Because much of it has to do with the wars, okay? Again, for the stereotypes, there is a multi-million-dollar industry that has sprung up after 9/11 that are coming up with all sorts of, stereotypes are not just coming because people want to say things. It is not like what happened to the other groups in the United States, to the blacks or to the Jews or to others. With Muslims, it's a little bit more. And they have the support, they have the funding. I have brought the CARE comes up with annual report of Islamophobia and the effect of Islamophobia on the country. And this time we have legislating fear. So the booklets are out there. I did not know, mashallah, you all have, it's a good number of people that have showed up. We were expecting a small group, so I just brought a few copies. Whoever wants to take them, please go ahead. So that report every year we do the study, the research, what's going on, how Islamophobia is affecting us. For this year, Sharia law is a big thing. 27 states are passing the Sharia law. And what is Sharia law? They are saying the Islam is coming, going to take over our court system, and the foreign law is going to be fought here, blah, 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 blah. Number one, our constitution is so strong here in this country that no foreign law is going to. The constitution supersedes any other law of any other land. We don't have to be afraid of that. Secondly, even if Sharia, if they are saying Sharia comes, I say Sharia is always already here. What is the Constitution? What are the 10 Commandments? The Constitution is based on biblical laws. Those biblical laws are coming out from 10 Commandments. So that is what Sharia is also. Sharia is already here. We don't have to bring it. Number one. Number two, get to know how many Muslims are there in the United States. Even if we are 8 million, 12 million, it makes only what? 2%? 3% of the total population? The country is really so weak that we are threatened by 2 or 3% of the population. Give me a break. This is really, so we're wasting. They are putting these things in our heads, and we are getting more and more confused, and we're getting scared. So instead, try to find out. You all should challenge when you hear something like this, whether it is about Muslims or anybody else. Try to find out, is this really true? It sounds bizarre. And try to look into it. So that is the best thing you can do for yourself and for the country.
My answer would be for you to ask tough questions. Find a Muslim and ask tough questions. Don't be hesitant to ask any question. Okay, because that's the only way you could see or find the truth.
Next? Yes. Keith?
Do you think that maybe you could get a public service campaign going to explain to people who are really scared of the Islamic jihadist groups what jihad really means? Most Americans have no idea what it really means.
Okay. First of all, what is jihad? What does it mean? Jihad means struggle. As I said, somebody asked, what is the best aspect of Islam that you like? Social justice. That is what jihad is about. Inner struggle and outer struggle. Inner struggle is, I want to make myself a better person. I want to be help for the others. I want to make this world a better place to live before I leave the world. That is my inner jihad. My outer jihad, to fight for everybody else's justice. Whether it is animal justice, whether it is human beings, whether it is climate, whether it is environment, whatever it is, we have to. So the jihad is a struggle actually. And if you see over here, they are saying these jihadis are fighting. I mean, if you really look at the fights, who is behind those fights? Who is behind Al-Qaeda? Who is behind Taliban? Who is behind all those people? Who's supporting them? We have to look at those things because really one man cannot get up and take this with United States, the most powerful country in the world. So instead of blaming, as my brother said, that 1.9 billion Muslims of the world of what wrong is going on, we have to find out the truth of what it is. But if you hear the jihadis, there's no such thing. I'm a jihadi. I'm standing in front of you. This is a form of worship for me. When I'm invited anywhere, I never say no. I go no matter who they are, what they are. You wouldn't believe what kind of people I have faced so far. And my family at home, they are worried if I'm going to come back intact or not. But the thing is that if you're afraid, you cannot do anything. This is my jihad, to come and look at my face and see me and say if I'm saying anything wrong. Tell me where I'm going wrong. And it is your jihad to come and sit to find out what really the truth is. That is what jihad is.
And that is going beyond stereotypes.
That is going beyond.
Maybe one more question, or possibly two? Okay, Dr. Hughes.
Ask the speakers to talk about, just on a personal level, what religious practices you do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. How does the Muslim faith inform your daily life?
Islam is a religion that people live their faith, okay? It asks, first of all, when you have to follow the will of God, that means you have to remember God at every step of your life. It is very much in tune with the human nature. What is good for you and the society is allowed. What is bad for you and for the society at large is not allowed. In Islam, right is right, wrong is wrong. So when we say we live the faith, if we are asked to pray 5 times, most of the Muslims pray 5 times, but not all. If they don't, we have no right to judge that I'm a better Muslim because I pray 5 times and she is not because she is not praying 5 times. Only God knows. She may be more closer to God. You know, who knows in what form she prays? I don't know. You only see me doing the physical form. Then, you know, the 5 pillars of Islam we have to follow. First of all, believe in God, believe in the last messenger of God, who's Prophet Muhammad, and all the prophets. Then pray 5 times. You know the 5 times of the prayers: at the sunrise, the midday, mid-afternoon, then sunsets, and at night. Those are the 5 prayers. If you want to do more, you can. There are rewards for everything that you do. 5 prayers is like constantly remembering your Creator. The dialogue that goes between you and Him. In Islam, there is nobody between you and your Creator. There's a direct connection. Okay? Sometimes you will hear people saying, oh, Islam doesn't have any leadership. We don't need leaders. We have Quran. As far as when the religion comes, yes, if we need any clarification for anything, you can go to the scholar. But he does not become something between you and God. 5-time prayers, then the third one is zakat, which is 2.5% of your total profits to be given to the needy people. Not to your friends because they are your friends or your families, unless they really are needy. It must be given. We do not have any social welfare system in our countries. It is the zakat money that is given out, and that is how we take care of our needy people. Then the fourth one is Ramadan, as my brother said, the fasting for the whole month. The fasting is that, of course, first of all, it cleanses your system. It is healthy. Secondly, it teaches you what it is to be poor, what it is when you don't have something to eat. Towards the end of Ramadan, wow, those hunger pangs really make you think. And back home in Pakistan, all the money that you save from 3 meals a day, you give to the needy people. Then the fifth one is Hajj, which is pilgrimage to Mecca. When we go there, you've been to Hajj, right?
Yeah, twice.
MashaAllah, me too. And when you go there, you really see that they say there are 2 million people, 3 million people. I talked to somebody up in the government there, one of the ministers, and he was a prince, and he was telling me no less than 8 million. In the 8-mile radius, put 8 million people from all walks of life, from all over the world. There are kings and presidents and janitors and poorest people all together. You would not know who's who. And that is the most beautiful experience. That is to know what the world is. In front of God, we are the same. So that is what it means. You have to live your faith in Islam. And that was your question. Did I answer it?
Yes.
All right, okay.
I would like to add something.
Yes, please.
Islam is not restricted to one image. We have black Muslim. If you take a look at Africa, a lot of Muslims are black. You have the olive skin like myself Muslims, which is very common. And we have blue-eyed, blonde-haired Muslims everywhere. You know, Russia is full of them. We have also the Oriental type of Muslims. So there is no restriction or one image that represents the Muslim. You find, I don't know, 70 million Muslim in China alone. So that gives you an indication that if you start to imagine one of us in one shape or one look, it's not going to be true. You know, we have every, like my sister said, when you go to look at the pilgrimage and you see that many people standing in one way, to me it's much more spiritual than religious at that moment. It's just the unity of the people and the equality of the people at that specific moments in time. It just makes it really very rewarding emotionally to me to see that nobody is better than anybody else at that specific second. It just really lasts for how long? 5, 6 days? Actually, it's
5 days.
yeah. It's brilliant scene to see how many people with all colors, all shades, women's, men. Actually, women and men are
Together.
standing by each other. You see a young man holding an elderly person, holding them actually, or carrying them sometimes in order to do the run around the Kaaba, it's very interesting seeing where sympathy and mercy and compassion is a very major factor in that. Okay. Of course, I wish to relive more of these days through the years. That would be wonderful. But this is really what you could see sometimes of the Islams. And compassion is major. So actually, I would like to mention that anything that is start in reading the Quran, it says, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. So any act we do, it should start by mercy and compassion.
I think that's an excellent summary. It's been a good hour and going beyond stereotypes. I want to thank Amelia Cofford, Professor Cofford, and the other people who worked with her.
Students at TLU engage in high-impact educational experiences that include civic engagement, aesthetic expression, critical thinking, and a focus on intercultural knowledge in a community that welcomes the interplay of faith and reason.